The sun bled orange across the dry grass, turning the savannah into a sea of fading light. Zuri stood at the edge, her gaze fixed on the horizon where the earth met the sky. Beside her, an old tortoise shifted his weight, his voice a low rasp that barely rose above the evening wind. He spoke of the secret Rainbow Valley, a place lost to the shifting dunes, hidden from those who lacked the will to seek it. Zuri listened, her ears twitching as the weight of the story took hold. She turned to Kiko, who hung from the low branch of an acacia tree, his movements fluid and watchful. The air grew cool, signaling the arrival of night, but the promise of the journey burned clearer than the dying sun. Zuri looked back at the vast, darkening plains. She held the tortoise's gaze for a second, then nodded. "We leave at dawn," she said. Kiko dropped from the branch, landing silently on the dust. They stood together in the deepening shadows, watching the last light vanish. The mission was set, and the silence of the plains no longer felt empty, but heavy with the weight of the miles to come. The dawn brought the roar of the rushing river. It was not a stream, but a churning throat of water slamming against jagged stone. Zuri stepped to the edge, testing the current with a single hoof. The water pushed back, cold and relentless. She found a slick, submerged rock and held her position, signaling Kiko to jump. They scrambled across in a blur of motion. Just as they reached the far bank, the water surged, rising inches higher to reclaim the path they had just abandoned. They did not stop to rest. Deeper in the thicket, a sharp, high-pitched trumpeting cut through the brush. They pushed through dense reeds to find Nia, a baby elephant buried chest-deep in gray, suffocating mud. Zuri drove her hooves into the earth, digging frantically to clear space around the calf. Kiko worked alongside her, piling dry, sturdy branches near the edge to create leverage. Together, Zuri grunted, bracing her weight. They heaved in rhythm. The mud gave a wet, sucking pop as Nia finally pulled free. The calf stumbled onto solid ground, shaking the sludge from her limbs. They stood in a circle, panting, the silence of the forest replaced by their synchronized breathing. The entrance to Echo Cave was a jagged mouth in the hillside. Inside, the air turned ice cold. The path split into 3 dark tunnels. Zuri stopped, ears swiveling to catch the faint whistle of air through the deep cracks. She identified the draft, guided her friends toward the light at the far end, and emerged back into the open. But the sky had changed. A bruised, charcoal black replaced the daylight. A bolt of lightning shattered a nearby tree, the sound like a cracking whip. Rain followed instantly, turning the ground into a treacherous slide of mud and debris. There was no shelter but a shallow, rocky overhang. They scrambled beneath it, pressing their bodies together as the wind began to howl. It was a chaotic, predatory sound that vibrated through the stone. Zuri huddled against the wall, head tucked low. Kiko gripped her side, his movements frantic and shallow. Nia shivered, her trunk curled tight against her chest. The rain hammered the earth, turning the path behind them into a flooded trench. They were small, exposed, and trapped by the fury of the sky. The howling wind dominated the world, drowning out their own breath, leaving them shivering in the dark, waiting for the violence to pass. The howling wind dropped to a whisper, then silence. Above the ridge, the clouds ripped apart. A vibrant, multicolored arc stretched across the sky, its base sinking into a basin hidden by mist. They climbed the final rise and looked down into a valley where every blade of grass pulsed with a soft, bioluminescent light. They descended, their feet sinking into moss that shimmered as they stepped. In the center of the clearing stood Lumo. He was massive, his fur like polished stone, his amber eyes fixed on their approach. He moved forward, his paws silent on the glowing earth. He stopped before Zuri and pressed his forehead against hers. A pulse of warmth flowed through her, a sudden clarity that sharpened her focus on the horizon. He turned to Kiko, chirping a low, rhythmic sound that forced the tension from the small creature, replaced by a steady, bubbling energy. Finally, Lumo nudged Nia with his nose, a gentle, grounding touch that stilled her trembling and deepened her presence. The trio stood transformed in the center of the basin, the light of the flora reflecting in their eyes. The air here was heavy with a quiet, ancient power. They had reached the heart of the world, and the weight of their journey shifted into something new. The valley light faded behind them as they stepped back onto the familiar dust of the savannah. The sun hung low, painting the long grass in deep, molten gold. Zuri paused, her hooves coming to a halt. She turned to look at the path they had carved through the landscape. It was a jagged, difficult line, but it was theirs. She looked at Kiko, whose movements were no longer frantic, but light and steady. Beside him, Nia walked with a quiet, grounded rhythm that had been missing before. Zuri felt the clarity Lumo had left behind, a sharp, unwavering focus that settled deep in her chest. She did not look back toward the hidden valley again. The destination had been a dream, but the survival of the last few days was the reality. They moved together, a synchronized pace that required no signals or commands. The savannah stretched out before them, vast and open, but the distance no longer felt intimidating. Zuri stepped forward, leading the way. The golden light caught her stride, reflecting the calm in her eyes. Her heart was full, not with the memory of the valley, but with the presence of the friends who had walked the entire way beside her. They were home, changed, and ready for whatever the horizon held next.